I would guess so.
So they're just smashed.
I would say they're entombed.
No, it's garbage. They found different parts.
Well, that's what the guy basically said in the press conference, and he basically said about recovering bodies or whatever. He's like, it's pretty harsh down there.
He was basically saying.
He's basically saying like,
We ain't going, we wouldn't send anyone down there.
well, no, they're just like there would be. I'm guessing there'd be not much of anything to recover. I'm sure that's all.
I think they're gonna want to see what happened to it. Why did it do it?
Because it was 2.5 miles down.
Yeah.
I don't think there's much to figure out.
They were saying they got into a mode where down to an hour of oxygen left, or 3 hours left. The guys, the experts, all things deep water, are saying what they should do is force themselves into or somehow will themselves into a trance-like state. Because if you could force yourself to do that, you use way less oxygen.
How would you do that?
I don't know. I don't know.
Well, we're about ready to die. I think I'm gonna have a nap.
So they said that basically was the accident. Will from sleeping.
It wouldn't have, said it wouldn't have been a bad way to die that way. Either way, I guess.
That would
But
be
if you
bad.
knew what was coming, that would be the hard thing.
It was only like 35 or 40 degrees down there.
That's super cold.
Be there a few hours.
That's like, it'd be like, God, you know, you hear those pops and creeps again. Whatever, you know, you're like, boy, that's all. I'm supposed to be doing that.
I'm ready when you are.
I didn't sign down. We'll call this meeting to order. We'll start with a question and answer period. Tim, you've got a little presentation to give us, if you would, please.
Thank you. As you know, I'm Tim Lotus, American Banking Trust. We have some of the county's deposits. And we're working on a program right now, the deposits for the county at the bank. Everyone gets the first $250,000 of FDIC insurance, and the balance of that has to be secured using other securities. Most of the time, it's always been treasuries for backing the deposits on their means. They fall past the $250,000 of coverage. Nowadays, all public deposits are fully covered and insured. We're partnering in a program that actually allows us to change from being investment backed with treasuries to using full FDIC insurance on all the county's deposits. We'd be able to cover everything that the county is holding at the bank with FDIC insurance on there. We would be offering actually a higher rate. It ended up being, just based upon the last year's carrying balance, what we'd increase rate by, you'd end up getting about like $1,200 a month in additional interest income just off of your deposits. So just kind of as an enticement to the county. When you allow us to have the deposits being FDIC insured instead of backed by treasuries, that allows the bank to use those funds for doing loans in the community. You know, we'd be able to invest again into the community. People are looking to buy land and use those funds to back their loan. They can put up in buildings, you know, other improvements that would actually keep generating additional revenue for the county. I've talked with Kim already on it. It sounds like she is in agreement. It's pretty much just changing one form of coverage to another form of coverage. The county would be fully insured with all their deposits. It'd just be moving into FDIC insurance on it. Just kind of looking for concerns or questions or comments on this. I believe Kim was on board just looking for the backing of the commission or moving forward.
Is it 250, Tim, is it 250 per account? So one individual could have 3 different accounts and they're covered up to 750?
Well,
Or per individual?
it's per individual per account type. So like a checking account carries 250,000, CD carries 250,000. You'd be able to have a $500,000 total there by different account types, but still, if you're just checking, it's just 250,000. So even if you have 2 accounts, 3 accounts, 50 accounts, it's still the same account type.
How many accounts do we get?
Oh, 3? That sound right? Yeah, the 2 larger carrying ones, but yeah, I think there was a smaller reserve one in there as well.
So we're covered up to 750.
Your.
We're only up to what you got in, up to 250 in each of those. So if we had 500,000 in one account, 100,000 in the other 2, we're only gonna get made whole on the 500,000 up to 250.
Through FDIC insurance. The balance of it is being covered through investments. We buy 10-year treasuries has been the norm on securing that. That way we have this in addition. If something were to happen in the bank, that part has been pledged to cover public deposits. So the county is fully covered with all public funds. We have schools, we have counties, we have cities, we have all sorts of other municipalities within the bank organization. We carry a large amount of securities to cover, and those have all been pledged into the state just to cover what we have in public deposits. It just changes the form of coverage.
But the new program is all FDIC,
Yes,
even above the 250 is what you're saying.
it would cover all funds held by the county with FDIC insurance.
No matter what.
There's a minimum.
Yes.
We can't make a decision on it because it wasn't on the agenda, and I think our treasurer should be involved in this discussion too. Is there any kind of timeline for making this decision?
No strict timeline, just we're kind of going around to the different counties and schools and cities that we're working with, having deposits with, just bringing this forward to them. We'd like to have an answer, at least a leaning on where you're thinking on, or if you have other questions or concerns. We do have another person out of our Sioux Falls location, Tom Verhey, that he's been heading this program and would have a little bit more in-depth information if you needed. But no, we don't need an answer immediately.
What's the potential downside to this one?
Potential downside? Nothing really on the county side. You would receive a higher rate of return on your deposits. You still stay fully covered with all your deposits at the bank. You just switch in the form. We do different bookkeeping side on our end. All your deposits, the accounts stay the same. You still have full access to them at all times when you need them. Whatever you need to draw at any time is available to you. It's just in how we're covering them through the partner program that we're on.
Why don't you guys just do that?
We need your consent.
Okay,
There are forms that we would be needing, at least Kim to sign, just saying that we agree to partner in this program.
okay.
Because it is still your account and your funds, and just saying that you are allowing us to use them in this program and backing them with FDIC insurance instead of investments.
I'm certainly interested in looking at it.
Sure, yeah.
Get on the July 6th, right?
Yep.
Agenda, and we'll have the treasurer involved in the discussion. And the guy that you said might come from Sioux Falls that can offer more information. I think that would be a good thing, wouldn't it?
I don't see why not.
I don't know why we would want to not take advantage of $1,200 a month average in interest.
Any other questions?
I think we'll just get it on the agenda for next month and
Okay.
we'll go from there. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, the next item is mine. It's just a quick one. Previously, you signed an easement on Arlene Batten for the replacement of a bridge. It's basically a donation of right-of-way. And we made a mistake when we were filling out the easement. And we did not get Darvin Harrells back in town. So really, that's just an information item that we had the chairman re-sign a corrected version of that easement. So I was hoping Darvin's would be here in time so you could prove it, but it didn't happen. So I yield.
I guess we'll just open right down the list. The community discussion, Jay Poindexter.
So several of us are here tonight asking the commission, because now there's a growing concern about property rights issues in South Dakota. So there is, some counties up here are starting to form what they call a coalition. What they're asking for is 2 commissioners from each county to participate in this, and they'll have, meetings will be more of a direct contact with other counties so that you guys can find out what other people are doing in different situations. It has potential to help, build legislation in Pierre if so needed. Any other thing we can think of? I said Jody's here. She, McPherson County has already approved this. Maybe she'd like to talk here for just a second. Can I tell you what they did? So
Is this with regard to the carbon pipeline?
it's not necessarily, but it's about property rights in general.
Oh, okay.
So
Great, so you've all taken your oath, you took an oath to the Constitution to protect our property rights, and so, McPherson County voted on June 6th to join this coalition that we're trying to launch with the commissioners, and it would be based on property rights, not necessarily the pipeline. It would be, property rights coalition or coalition of county commissioners for property rights, we're not sure what we call it yet. And Dennis, you want to, he has asked Brown.
Thank you, Dennis Spiker from Aberdeen. There needs to be changes in the eminent domain laws, and I think if a coalition was formed, it would be an opportunity for 2 commissioners, hopefully, from each county that are affected by this pipeline, and it comes down to property rights. I mean, there's no question about it. If this Summit Carbon Solutions pipeline company can take people's private property and use eminent domain for private gain, this is the tip of the iceberg of what's going to happen in the next, maybe next year. I see it as an opportunity for example, if you have a quarter of land that's close to a substation or close to a main transmission line, and they decide that they want to take somebody's quarter of land to put solar panels on, they're just going to come and do it. So what the idea behind this coalition is to get 2 county commissioners from each county that's affected by this pipeline, and to try to maybe have some meetings so that everybody is kind of on the same page, and then have conversations with the legislators and try to get some strength in the eminent domain law, some separation between, like, for example, utilities, whether it's water, rural water, whether it's the electric co-ops or whatever, because those truly are for the public, and they're for everybody's use. This pipeline, I mean, they might, the Governor's Office of Economic Development or the Chamber of Commerce might argue with you that, or with me or whoever, that this is for the benefit of us all, and it's not. It's a transfer of wealth is what it is.
What is the present status of the conflict over eminent domain with regard to the carbon pipeline?
Well, right now, they've actually got, 102 lawsuits to go and use eminent domain. I think there's like 30-some in McPherson County, there's 4, in McPherson County, there's 34, there's 4 here in Ann County.
Well, I have a list here, this is a spreadsheet of the ones that are being condemned across the state. This is not a complete list, I think there's 80 or so on here now, but they're up to over 100 now.
Okay, there's 4 in Ann County?
There's 4 in Ann County that are listed in here, if you'd like to see that, like look through that. It's the
None of this has been heard yet or decided by any court, correct?
No.
There was a court hearing, and that one was to, two different judges ruled to allow surveying to take place on private property. They had quite a blowout yesterday, I don't know if you folks have heard about it or not. Up in Brown County, they actually came onto an individual's property with drilling rigs and drilled 2 holes 90 feet in the ground. Really had not had an explanation as to what the real purpose was. What they're using or what they're saying is that they're gonna be boring from one side of a creek or a lake to the other side, and they need to be at a 40-foot level. Well, why did they drill 90 feet? And I mean, they're not very, this company is not transparent. They're not telling everybody the truth of what's going on. So, but anyway, we'd like to have, at some point, have your commission take some action, appoint or volunteer 2 commissioners to join up with a coalition, and then we'll have to go right on down the line and try to get other counties to participate. And
Is the focus exclusively only in the domain?
Property rights.
property
Okay,
rights.
how's that gonna interface with, if at all, every one of those counties' zoning ordinances?
Well, see, a lot of the county, I think Han County, you had a moratorium, is that correct? And then the moratorium was taken off.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And actually, Brown County has a moratorium that will go off. I think it's either the 18th or 19th of July. And I just had been in the commission chambers about, I think it was 3 weeks ago, and asked them, they were gonna take it off. And I asked them to leave it on at least until the date that it was originally set to come off on its own. And I think now there's gonna be a move to try to get that moratorium extended for another year. McPherson County had just done that about 2 weeks ago. They extended their moratorium, and then of course, the counties have been sued, the commissioners have been sued, and they are telling, the pipeline company is telling the counties that they don't have to listen to what the counties are drafting as far as ordinances are concerned, that they only have to adhere to what the federal government guidelines are. And FEMSMA had a meeting, public input meeting in Des Moines, when was it, 2 weeks ago? And at this point, there's nothing that's come out of that. We had a meeting with Senator Rounds on Monday, just this past Monday, and we asked him if there would be some way that he could get possible moratorium on FEMSMA's action and try to solve that off, so that the pipeline company is pushing, they want to get in under any changes that FEMSMA might make, so that they don't have to put the pipe 4 feet in the ground. They don't have to listen to the county's setback ordinance, all those kind of
They
things.
basically told us our ordinance is irrelevant.
Well, that's not true. I mean, the counties have got, you've got way more power than what your,
That's been their attitude since day one.
It's clear to me that the counties do have the authority to set setbacks and stuff for these things, although they tell us we don't.
even the routing,
That email that I got back from FEMSA that I had done forward to you guys, that said in there that the counties are responsible for zoning and setbacks and stuff on this, and they tell us we're immaterial to them.
well, they, in a meeting in Fairfield, when the PUC, Public Utilities Commission was there, Commissioner Gary Hansen, PUC Commissioner Gary Hansen asked specifically for input from the counties. He wanted to know how the counties felt about this thing, get themselves educated as to what was going on. The thing that's so puzzling about all this, and that really needs to be brought to a head, is how can they be doing all the things they're doing, this pipeline company? How can they be surveying? How can they be drilling and doing all these things? They don't even have a permit from the PUC And so, I mean, what gives them the right to do all these things?
You've started condemnation without a permit. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah. And so,
Are you looking for outside counties, outside of the pipeline counties to join this for property rights? Because I think this is it's a big issue where the pipelines are going, but it's a bigger issue for the whole
oh,
state.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Because if this goes through the way they're doing it,
It sets a precedent.
it sets a precedent and it's gonna go all over the state.
Yes.
I think that's more what people need to look at.
I think Joey's got a couple of
I
letters.
have some counties, right now who aren't affected and who citizens in those counties have gone to their commission and asked them to send a letter to the PUC opposing the eminent domain, and those two counties, one's gone home, one in Seebach. So neither one are affected, and we've got some more that are gonna go to the commission, so we're getting going. We just, this would be another way with this coalition of commissioners to protect our rights.
You have paperwork, site to establish your coalition somewhere? Yeah,
No,
Just
we're
verbal
just,
so far.
yeah, we're just launching it, and, like I said, McPherson did vote to join it, so I guess they're the first county, and now we're going to other counties and just trying to get it up and going.
Is it your understanding that a decision on eminent domain could be made, at least entertained by courts prior to approval or not approval from the PUC in this matter?
It won't be before the PUC hearings. The lawsuits
Then why
have
wouldn't
been
the judge-
filed, but those are, I think, in South Dakota, they said it takes a minimum of 12 a year for the process to go, the eminent domain process to play out. So that's why these companies are jump-starting this eminent domain process, because they're anxious to get construction going. I mean, their investors are breathing down their necks. They're
I
foreign
don't-
investors.
It seems to me that no judge is going to hear the case until the PUC has said yes or no. Because eminent domain is not in order in any event if the PUC doesn't give them a yes. But if you were at that meeting, and you were at Redfield, so was I, so was Jay, so was Jennifer, and Joyce, you might have been, I don't know who else. The PUC basically said at that meeting, and he put it up on the screen, that they're only concerned about 4 areas of, and none of them are likely to provide a stumbling block, I don't think, to their approval. I think he was preparing everybody in the room for PUC's approval of the.
Yeah.
Because he was saying, this is the only thing we can deny an approval on, these 4 areas. And it doesn't fall into any of those 4.
Right.
I had that list in my billfold.
Yeah,
We can't give up a fight based on what those 4 things were.
Yeah.
Because, this is, property rights and freedom too. I mean, in liberty, we're right on the edge in this country of things happening that are not what we need to see happen.
I have a quote here from John Adams, our second president. The moment the idea is admitted into society that property is not as sacred as the law of God, and that therefore is not a force of law and public justice to protect it, anarchy and tyranny commence. And then here's another quote from Karl Marx, the father of communism. The theory of communism may be summed up in one sentence: abolish all private property. So that's what we're facing.
John Kerry made a comment last year sometime in 22 that it's time that we're gonna have to do away with property rights because we're gonna need a lot of land for our wind towers and solar panels.
Well, I'm just gonna share a real quick story with you. My great-great-grandpa came to this country when he was 60 years old, came from Odessa, Russia. Why did he come here? He came here for the very things that we're fighting to try to hang on to. My great-grandpa came here and homesteaded in McPherson County, and then my grandpa, and then my dad took over the farm, and now my little brother's on the farm with a son-in-law and a son and a grandson, all on the same farm. My operation is down closer to Aberdeen. I'm not directly affected by this on my land, how I'm affected is my property rights and freedom, and what my ancestors went through to get away from the very thing that we're being driven into. And so that's why I'm fighting to get some eminent domain laws changed and get this thing stopped.
I agree with you 100% on the question of eminent domain. And I would be willing to serve as one of the two. If you guys
I would
want
do
to
it.
approve us to do that, we don't have any authority to do anything or bind the county.
I think it's a responsible thing to do to be a voice for the citizens. I don't like the way this thing has been handled from the start. In the arrogance of filing for eminent domain, filing condemnation papers before they have an approval, that's just what we've seen clear from the start.
I can't see how a judge could even listen to the case prior to a PUC decision. It's out of order.
Yeah.
You ask me.
Well, I would want to do it.
I don't have a problem with
We
it.
can't.
I
the
would have
county's
no
hands
problem
on
with
it.
that either. Yeah. I agree. If there was ever
I
a.
don't know if we can make any kind of formal motion of sorts in here, but I don't see any problem with doing it, right?
Should we just say it's the consensus of the group that we should have
Right.
representation?
I just wrote that nobody objected to you two representing
Okay.
this board.
McPherson County did vote or they made a motion to join.
I thought maybe you had a resolution that you would want executed at some point. Is that been talked about yet?
First county did have
You mean in opposition to eminent domain?
Or in support of forming a coalition of
Oh,
counties?
no, they just made a motion and voted to join the coalition, and they said, well, let us know when you get going, up and going, and report back to us.
Well, then if that's the case, I would move that we join the coalition.
Do I hear a second?
With Jim and Jim as
Just
the.
worry about it, it's not-
Unless somebody else wants to serve.
No, that's perfect.
Just saying.
Yeah, it's really not on the agenda. So could we put it on next month's agenda
On the sixth.
on the 6th?
Easily.
We should probably do that because we just will keep it. It wasn't on the agenda that we were gonna do this.
I don't think we want that to be the stumbling block of some,
If anything they do down the road, this coalition goes down the road.
Yep.
We don't want to
I'll withdraw.
give them a leg to stand on. So we'll put it on next month, or which will be,
Are you guys?
Have you written a letter to the PUC as a county, at all? I have some, template letters, I believe, with you that we've written up, and we're asking counties to send, because like you said, Gary Hansen said it would be the counties that would really weigh heavily on his decision, give them a permit or not. So
Can you leave
let
those
me
with
leave
Doug?
those, I can leave those template letters, and, if you want, just plug in Han County for the, the name and send that to the PUC. That'd be really helpful.
We would have to probably put that on the July 6th agenda too, and have a motion and a vote from the board. I don't know, I personally, from the dealings with these people, I would just simply work that hard. And I don't, I've said this so many times, I don't know enough about this science behind this, and know if it's necessary. But I just don't like the way it's been handled, I just don't think it's right. And I've stated so many times, I'll dig my heels in when it comes to the eminent domain.
Are you guys aware of any other organized efforts in this arena? As far as, yeah, at this level, I mean, specifically for this eminent domain issue, as it pertains to property, right? I mean, is there any other coalitions at the county levels or state levels?
No, is that in the other states at all? No,
State,
Not
even within
here.
South
I'm not aware of it.
House Bill 1133 sailed through the House convincingly, and that deadbeat Lee Schoenberg killed it in committee before it even got to the Senate. And I'm calling a spade a spade. He didn't, he could have just as well said some wording needs to be changed or whatever, and let the Senate vote on it, but he killed it. And that would have clarified what a common carrier is. And carbon pipelines would not have been included, but I'm afraid he maybe had money in his pocket, I don't know. There's so much wrong with this, and the governor will not speak to these landowners' rights issues. She will not say a word. Somebody sponsored her inauguration. I don't know, it's ugly.
Well, we appreciate your time and the concern because, I mean, it's alive and it's out there and it needs to come to an end.
Is there anyone else wants to speak on the subject?
Thank you for listening to us.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks for coming.
Yes, thank you.
This is the template letter for PUC, for navigator. For Summit, it's the same letter, but addressed information. Just on the Summit. So that's one home. This 35 resolutions.
Yep.
We want to consider.
Okay, we'll move on to the drought declaration.
Or most of you know, because you're dealing with it personally, that we're pretty dry. We've had some rain. I hope we continue to get it. We don't have to worry about this, but storm tonight pretty much crapped the bed and went around us. So the only copy of a drought declaration that I have in my records is from 2021. Gib Rogers signed it, and it was actually drawn up by the FSA office. So I am still working on getting some information from the state, if they have some parameters that we need to follow.
What has been done in the past is the county commissioners have to declare it. Then it goes to the FSA office. And usually when we do it, they automatically will do it. Because we gotta take the lead on it. And then they come in. I don't know if I think it goes through them because that's where, if there's going to be any monetary payments made, it's gonna have to come through them, not through us. But we do need to declare it. That's,
We just do it on record, that's all.
we just do it on the record that we're doing it. And that gives the FSA office the green light to move forward.
And talking to
And for the FSA office to do it, it has to hit certain numbers. I don't know what them numbers are, but by us doing it here, that lets them free to, if it hits them numbers,
Right.
they're in.
So their parameters are D1 to D2.
Right.
And we're in D0 for most of the county. The lower quarter, we're in D1. And
So what would on that map behind you, the red would be D2 or D3?
red is D3, yes.
Is D what?
D3.
The colors didn't come up here, but it should be on there.
What's the bullseye at Dan's house?
What's great?
Oh, now come on down.
One more home.
Very easy, this is what.
Oh, isn't it?
No change, I think, is
Oh,
what we're
okay.
doing.
So about half, now not quite half the county, but pretty close to half the county is in D1.
D1 has is that?
Yep, that's great.
I also put this on the agenda because I talked to a couple of producers that said, boy, things are up and down. So I started calling different producers around the county. Dave Little's comment, I said, what are things looking like? He says the hay is a quarter to a third of what it should have made, that's what's corn looking like. He says, have you ever seen the top of a pineapple? I called Dr. Gib Rogers and Gib says, I've been so busy zeroing out wheat fields, they're cutting them for hay and we're gonna grow some hay mullet to hopefully bail up a little more feed.
Right.
Dave Wordle said their pastures down there are 6 to 8 inches tall and headed out. I'm not so sure, well, I suppose if they graze them down, then it rains, they might come back some, but our producers are in a tough situation.
There's, by us declaring it, we're not hurting ourselves by doing it. I don't think.
It's a declaration that we know things are getting really bad.
Yeah, there's no doubt, there's no pitfall, which I don't understand. I
There wouldn't be a.
don't know why we wouldn't just do it.
No, and the NRCS, they're on the same line, they're a little worse, they're more D2 to D3 before they start doing stuff, but they also take the lead from FSA, and then obviously the county.
Is there any mileage in making that declaration here and now as opposed to the 6th?
No, it doesn't hurt nothing.
I do it here and now, it's on the agenda. We can do it.
But I don't have, do I need to have one written up?
No, it's just a declaration.
It's a declaration that will, if they come to, we've got a motion and a second. We're gonna vote on it here in a second. It'll be in our minutes, so they'll be able to come back and see when we did it.
So FSA office, their meeting yesterday, the day before. And they have a representative for the north, central, and south, and they were all in agreement that moving forward would be a good idea. They're not quite at the level where the programs are coming available, but they're leading in that direction.
Great.
And that'll, obviously, they talk to a lot more farmer and ranchers on what's going on and how bad the crops are, what's being zeroed out. So obviously, there's some small grains that are being zeroed out already. So just, it's hard to see, but we're at a third now. And last week, we were about there. So it is getting worse. Talking to some of the Kukura weather takers in the county, that basically they're amateurs, they take weather readings for Aberdeen Weather Service. Up by our tower, up by Clint Hague, he's got 3 inches of rain for this year. And that's not including, he had about 10 inches of snow that he didn't melt down and get the actual moisture reading out of it, but that wouldn't bring him up to 4 inches. So still, when we're looking at 18 to 20 inches of rain on average a year in Hampton County, that's quite a ways below. Chris Howard is at 6 inches up until this last rain.
And I mean, the real problem is the drought in combination with one of the worst winters we've come off of, where a lot of, at least on the cattle side of things, a lot of guys fed up most, if not all, of their hay reserves.
Yeah, it's not gonna be.
nothing.
Our neighbor Larry Hillman cuts his prairie hay every year. And he says, you guys mowers already and stuff. And he says, he went out there, nothing, come back home. He says, it literally is worth cutting. He says, there's nothing there.
You know, it is weird if you go north of St. Lawrence, about 5 miles or so, and then east, God, there's a spot out there. I don't know why it is, but
It ain't very right.
No,
5 miles wide. It's beautiful. Oh, God, good looking.
yeah, they got that 3 inches of rain, and
Yeah.
there's a swath.
That's the only spot I think in Union County.
Right. They were talking to a couple people, or I was talking to a couple people, for Simon and Riesels, and they said from about Highway 45, roughly 10-mile road to Tulare, in a pretty small swath that got pretty decent rain and have hit those rains that have come through. So they're doing okay. They're talking to some of them around the Polo area, the Schaefers and Selectors. They said they're doing okay. They're doing better than the southern part of the county, but they're losing yields now.
Well, yeah, you drive, Monday, when it was 101, you drive down the road and cornfields are blue. And when they turn blue, yield just going out the window. I mean, if you get rain, they'll recover, they'll green back up and they'll grow, but it took yield away from them. And the small grain, that isn't zeroed out isn't gonna be much. I mean,
Another neighbor that, we were just talking about this inch we got the night before last and yesterday morning, and he said, but I'm afraid it's gonna be like a Band-Aid on a broken leg.
Well, I do have, all the Kukra information supposed to have been here today, but they had trouble with their computers at Aberdeen Weather, so hopefully I'll have them tomorrow and I'll pass those on to the FSA office.
okay, I've got a motion, a second, I need a vote. Aye.
Any more
All
questions?
those against? I needed to get the voter before we moved on.
You forgot about it?
Yeah.
I see in there, the statute says an individual farmer can declare. Maybe I'll just declare tomorrow morning when I get out of bed. It says it up, or, yeah, somewhere in there.
Some of the bills that you guys looked at today weren't normally mid-month bills, so I just asked them to approve the vouchers that were presented with mid-month bills.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
I'll sign the block.
I didn't even know that.
I did.
Oh, do that.
James?
James?
How's everybody tonight?
Wonderful.
Yeah, great.
Great. Well, it basically says what I'm asking for right here on the agenda. Ultra is hosting a users meeting for directors and then the auditor and treasurers. Theirs on a different day. But I would like to be able to go and then also take Nicole with me. Because I think it would be good for her to go. And
So you want to disclose the office? for that
yeah,
day?
and then we might be open in the morning for a couple hours. I'm not sure what time it starts.
I don't have a problem with it. I think you should take her along with you.
Yeah.
And
This is the system that is currently in use.
Yes, and we are gonna be getting an upgrade of that soon, hopefully.
We got that in our last meeting.
Yeah,
Doug, we just do this by consistency. It's okay to me.
okay. All right. Thank you.
I think you're good to go.
All right.
Okay, we're in Spring Township. I've got, the paperwork on it,
Randy's here.
oh, Randy.
There were sufficient number of electors to sign a petition to be certified.
Thanks, guys. I tried to be short and sweet. I didn't know I'd get here. I was waiting in line and mine was 3 hours ago and there's 40 trucks in.
Oh,
I called up Doug. Doug was a great help, answered most of my questions. I kind of visited with him about most of my concerns and he straightened them out. I got back in time. I've never seen a line in last trucks that click through. Usually it drags out for another hour. But anyway, that got done. One of my concerns was that the $250,000 deal was gone. You know, we talked to people. I gotta thank Luke. We were at his house and pestered him one night. He answered a lot of questions for us. Found him to be very gracious. The beer was cold. It was good. So that kind of helped. We needed some answers there when we went around with the petition, you know, for people that had questions, you know, to answer some of the unknowns, because it's hard to talk people into signing unknowns. So the $250,000 we understood went away. One of the concerns, are we still kind of on track for that 6-month period in there, so we don't starve in there in between, and we kind of got to figure out. I said they what?
Doug says she was entitled to this year's revenue.
Yep, and
That's my opinion.
that's his opinion, so we're going with that now then, okay? The collections that would, as far as what Doug and I have, the collections that would be coming in the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Now, Luke said something about some township dug some money out of their pocket and.
Some did, but I'm not saying
Yeah.
all the townships should do that, but what, I guess it was, I thought it was a consensus of this board that moving forward, after we assign the supervisors, you guys are basically a township. And you would get any money that, out of that your township would receive for the rest of the year, you get that. That's what.
So we have something to operate on.
Yes.
What I told Ray Heights last night, I says, if this other township dug in their pockets and put money in the kitty and opened an account to start, I says, rather than do that, I says, if you owe second half property taxes, why not pay them early? Those are gonna come through the system here and come back because you get $2 that you get considerably more revenue. May and November are the 2 months that your big revenue comes in. And so if there were some people willing to just pay their second half property taxes early, you would have,
Where the M was coming up, I think we're on deck for that. Coming along pretty darn shortly.
Well, that was a consensus of this board, with that we would, well, it is their money. It is absolutely their money. Because once they become a township, we no longer have rights to that money.
I was just seeking the opinion of the state's attorney, because if we send it, and then we find out we're wrong, it'd be kind of embarrassing to ask for it back.
I don't think we'll have to ask for it back, because from the conversation that I had with him, I don't think that would be a problem. But we didn't specifically talk about that, but we talked about a lot of other things that pertain to it. And, but I will get a hold of him and make sure we're good.
Because what I'd like to do is prepare a resolution for the 6th that spells that out.
Mhm.
Because when I went back to the minutes from the 80s and looked at when some of them dissolved and then, like Alton, for example, reorganized, there wasn't a lot in the minutes other than they just moved to do it. And so I think a resolution will make a better permanent record of this activity than just a motion in the minutes.
So the funds that's there is, you're talking, that's the secondary
Will do.
road use levy, and so I assume then that, unless they change it, that'll be their
That's
township.
what they will start with unless they decide to change it.
Right, so we just wrote checks to the townships. Well, we had to take the money that's collected from people in this township and put it in secondary roads, because we hadn't gotten an answer to the question. Well, with knowing you guys are all on the same page that I'm on, now we can take those funds and organize them so they can be sent to him.
So you said you just wrote checks to townships?
Yep.
Is there any way we can get that back out of that pool?
Oh, absolutely.
Because that's their, I mean,
It
their.
just goes into secondary road fund, and so we just pay the checks out of secondary road fund.
Okay.
Not a biggie.
Because it's all broke down into what each one of them we're gonna get in.
When are these 5 townships' birthdays going to be? When do they come into existence?
They come into existence when they have their, when they have their special meeting. This is what we gotta talk about now. We're gonna appoint, well, I got the list here. Doug Schaefer's, and you, Randy, are the 3 superintendents. You will go back to your township, have a special meeting, and at that special meeting, you will seat your board. When your board is seated, you are a township. You are, right now,
Our protocol with papers or stuff, that Becky talked to you.
If you call the bill of press, then they'll draw it up for you, and they'll send me the bill.
but it has to be put in there as a special meeting.
Yep.
And when,
Purpose of write up something for us to sign and use, is this up to us
If you
to
get
write
my
it?
consent, I'll call
If
it.
you expect us to write it down right and sign it right, we probably wouldn't get that done.
Doug says if you give him consent, he'll call paper and have it for you.
There's
here's,
only one glitch, the paper goes to bed today, so it won't be in Saturday's paper, it will be next week's paper, and then the following.
Don't make any
paper-
difference to me.
Okay.
you sure it went to bed today? You sure you couldn't get it to her in the morning?
I can call her and ask her.
Why don't you call her and ask her, because I would.
Does 1 week make a big difference? Is it?
I think the sooner you do it, the better off you're gonna be. We're running up against that deadline, and you don't want to pass that one up.
Okay.
And then what I'm saying is now, you're gonna go back, you're gonna have your special meeting, whatever day it is, and at that special meeting,
Is that just us guys, us 4 guys, or is this
No,
for
no.
the township?
Everybody has to know about it.
Everybody has to know about
yeah, now
it. Does
whether,
everybody know about it? Well, not everybody. I was surprised when I went around the lack of people that don't get to know the press. Like, there's a lot of them up there that don't.
well,
know the press.
you may have to do a little legwork to get the people there. But what you do at that special meeting the three people, your three superintendents, they can run for the offices or they don't have to. You
If I
see
could
that.
get out of it, I'm bailing.
That's all how you
And the
handle it.
public can nominate.
Yeah, the public can nominate people for,
Any citizen from your township, any
Voter.
voting citizen from your township can nominate candidates for office.
As long as it's
They
properly.
don't want it in here, because nobody else wants to come.
Well, that's it.
That's it.
As long as it's advertised and no other members of the public show up except for you three guys who agreed to serve, that's perfectly legal. Nobody's paying all that to come.
Is the paper enough?
Yeah.
Okay, because we're up against Fall County, there's more people get to talk to.
well, you probably, yeah, up there, you
I
probably
get
do.
both, but you know, this
So
one.
if you guys are okay with it, I'll publish it both.
Maybe you should publish it in the
I
fall,
think that would be appropriate.
up there.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Might hold the bitch down, or the bitch chamber. Not that anybody would complain.
But what I'm saying is you need a clerk, a treasurer.
You said the clerk and the treasurer could be the same person, couldn't they?
If they're short of people.
If you're short of people, you should have a clerk.
I had to lean on Becky and be nice to her, smooth her,
There you
do a
go.
lot to talk her into it. Heather Schaefer's wife was on the list too, and it was between them two girls. Well, they had experience in this kind of stuff.
Yep.
It would do it, you know. You know, it's really a lucrative, high-paying position.
Yeah, it is.
It's really in demand.
You get a lot of this.
Yeah. A little bit of this too.
And here's some advice for you. If you don't pay your officers, you don't have to file a return with the IRS.
There you go.
Well, I don't think that's just the dumbest thing.
I'm glad the camera's back there.
Or-
Yeah.
Our township.
But I mean, that's what you have to do, and then you seat your board, but in all purposes, you guys are a township right now since we,
Since Doug bought in the petition.
when he brought in the petition, but now that we've recognized you three as supervisors,
Have we-
We haven't yet. We haven't.
we haven't officially, I guess, so we gotta vote on it.
We will.
We will.
So let's
I make a
do
motion to approve them,
Well,
those three supervisors.
I will second.
if Becky comes, will you have paperwork for her to bring to this special meeting that's gonna say stuff for us to fill out, or we just have a meeting? Okay.
write a template for her.
Yeah, if you wrote a template for it, we are, have her raced out.
we've got a motion and a second, let's do the vote.
Ready for motion?
Aye.
Motion.
Aye.
You're about to get train horn. Aye.
Okay, now you are officially,
Supervisor.
you're a supervisor, in all intents and purposes, you're.
I don't have to be the head guy, do I?
No, you do not.
I'm working on.
Unless you get voted,
Unless you get voted in, and we have nothing to do with that.
See, I looked it over, I'm the oldest guy, I have seniority, I'm a seniority
It
group.
depends how many people show up and how many friends you got.
Might be hundreds of people show up.
Nobody is showing a lot of enthusiasm for this job.
It,
That is why, this is why I got stuck with it.
it isn't that bad.
It's not that bad. Everybody worries about it, but it's not that bad.
I've been on the township board for 24, 25 years now, I think, and it's pretty laid back.
Yeah. I think we get through the first year or two, I don't think it'll be too
Your
bad.
Piece of cake.
Your first year is gonna be the one that's gonna be the stumbling block.
The other one that we had, and Doug helped me with too, was the mill levy. You know, and some of the paperwork I got, it said that we was thinking we were gonna get half the mill back, but he said we get all of it back, which makes our life a lot easier, otherwise we've been in trouble. You know, and there was people that asked me about it, and I looked at it too, and I was unclear about it, so. Doug's been a great help, he really has. If we were tomorrow, I'd buy the beer. There you go. That's about high praises I get, guys. That's about the extent of it.
Trophies come in many forms.
There you go, yeah.
And I have volunteered to help any of these townships, help the treasurer, get going and stuff.
Well, good, yeah. I used that pretty hard on Becky. I said they assured me that there'd be help, to keep it simple. And this is a KISS thing, you know.
Yeah. I gave Rehights the last 3 years of Ohio Township's records, the treasurer's report, the receipts and disbursements statement. I mean, it's It's not rocket science, it's just simple bookkeeping.
We'll go along with it. One other party thing, you know, Jeff, yeah, say it, you had to run the graders over the road the last day if you did. Can I say a hint like that in front of you? Other than that, I think we're okay.
Yep. Okay.
I guess we'll stumble and bumble and work our way through it one day.
And if you got any questions, Doug will help you.
Yep, he's been a great help. In several ways, he's given me paperwork and stuff.
Anybody else, I'm on the township board. It's not that tough.
We're not pointing the finger. Okay. Well, I'm glad it worked out I could get here, otherwise I'd leaning on Doug, I told him to come, as I called up Dirk Schaefer, everybody's busy, you know. Doug Schaefer, his sister died, and they had her funeral today, so
Yeah.
couldn't expect, you know, his family back, couldn't expect him. Becky said, I don't wanna go.
She just told you.
If you know her, if she says something,
Yeah.
she's one of the German-Russian girls, she will turn on you. Yeah, thanks, guys. Anything else I can do? Anything else you need to be around for?
You got it. You got it.
Well, I'm gonna run down to the bar and have a beer. Get out of that.
Better be a little bit yet.
How much rain here in town this afternoon? Did you get anything?
That could not be wet.
Dropped an inch up there at Orion.
Did it?
Dropped an inch 30 the other night.
Really?
I think we had decided that the rain is gonna follow the deep snow. And we were in the deep snow last year.
Good for you.
I'm going for that, yeah. Yep, I ordered an inch a day for 3 days. So.
Well, there you go.
There you go.
We got 2 days done.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it.
See you now.
Thank you.
Thanks.
You betcha. Okay, so I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. Yesterday, I published a legal notice informing all of the township electors that had organized that they're not voting in the election. You all agree with that? Yeah. Okay, so basically it leaves the resident voters of Harrison Township to vote on next Tuesday. And so instead of employing 3 poll workers, I'm only gonna employ 2. Because it shouldn't take more than 2 to run through a couple dozen possible
Do you have
ballots.
to have two?
I think 2 just so they can check each other.
Right, I think so. Check and balances there, I think.
Yeah, I'm sure it looks better.
It looks good.
You've got a couple people.
Yes, yeah, Tammy Schaefer's and Ken Schaefer.
Yeah.
Will do it. And then they'll count right after the polls close.
Okay.
Get that all taken care of. So we answered the question already, which is what happens to the property taxes and other taxes. So if any of you have a conversation with Elton and he gives you any indication to the contrary, let me know as soon as possible.
Have you talked to legislature about it? Those guys, do you have any help?
They tell me all the states fair now. That's the new phrase for almost every state office.
You sent him something?
Yep.
And so just specifically on the question of the,
If he sees any reason that we should not spending that revenue. I can't imagine there is, but maybe there's something in there.
I don't know. I wanted to get over before this.
What if they decide
You
to
are,
switch
you're
from out of town, themselves to dissolve?
Well, I thought of that. There is some statute in there as well that says that you can decide, like Harrison, the only one left, they will organize, and then they would have circulated a petition to overrule that decision. So it is a two-way street. They can either apply to do it through petition, or you can tell them to do it, and then they'd have to petition against it.
Upon the dissolution of a township, voluntary ending of a township's life, any balance they have in their accounts would be going to the company? Is that?
It did. In the 1980s, it was pretty clear in there that some of the townships delivered their books, all their records, and their deposits,
Okay.
and signed them over. And then there was some activity to try and expend as much of it as possible so that they had 100% reward for their investment.
Yeah.
And then things just started off normal.
Okay.
So we had told us last night, they had about $10,000 in the county spent that gravel roads in the township.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, so that covers that. So you guys want to cover budgets?
Yep.
Does Jeff need to run his money?
Yeah.
His budget,
We're here
right?
for budget stuff.
He's got the biggest.
So I just want to bring a couple things to your attention. Anna Kathy couldn't be here, so she wanted me to remind you of her request. And that is basically that they want to do that,
Because I didn't see that in here when I looked.
I know,
she brought it last time.
Right, but it wasn't, I didn't see it in
Oh,
the last version, I didn't think.
not in her section, not in her library section, there was nothing in there.
was it the time before? Or
Huh?
was it the time before?
Nope, this was June 20th.
You're talking about the,
Yeah, where they reline the walls and
Yeah.
insulate and then
yeah, I didn't.
I didn't think I saw
replace
it.
the carpet. So the question for you guys is, she did not originally put that in the library's budget. Would you like her to put it in there for consideration?
Well, that's what she came for, I thought, so that's why I was surprised when I didn't see it in there. In here.
Oh, in the budget itself, I thought you were talking about the worksheet that she had.
No,
No,
I guess I just didn't see it in here.
But you're asking if we want it.
correct. Because you're just passing right now this first budget.
I guess to me it should be in there,
Yeah.
because she requested it, and if we don't think it will make the cut, we'll have to take it out, I guess, but I think it should
There's
be.
really nothing we're doing here tonight is set in stone.
No.
No, actually, when you do the provisional budget, it's just so that I can finalize it enough to publish it and receive public feedback.
What about the provisional budget with regard to the coroner's office?
That is in there.
Okay, where was it?
Its number is 213. So if you find sheriff or jail, it's the next one.
213?
213. I have it on page 18, 19. Oh, 19, 20, sorry.
20 here it is.
I was looking at, where do we, the salaries for your office?
Where am I?
Professional services,
141.
Right, but are they all, how's that gonna work?
oh, here, so we
Next person.
Actually, Nicole works for the highway
So
department.
It's all there?
Yep.
She just had space in here, kind
Yep.
of.
So right now she works till about 3.
There's never been a salary, it's always just a fee.
As she gets more involved out there, she'll be spending more time there.
Okay,
And then the
that's why I was just
next-
looking at that, thinking,
For 5,000.
all that way.
There's current year budget and this year's budget, so some of that is
I haven't
changed a little bit.
pulled that out yet. I did notice a few salary lines. I mean, if we're gonna stick, other than, certain circumstances that makes it higher than 3%.
3%.
Yeah, that if we want to keep the 3%, that there is definitely some that are certainly over that. I haven't worked them out yet. I mean, so I did talk, or go ahead.
Like Jamie's, that has 3 employees for a while until Pearl retires. So that one was, I thought, accounted for. Jeff's was up some, but I think that was another employee.
Yeah, Jamie's would go down next year.
Yeah, hers went down.
What was hers that went down?
Yeah.
The sheriff's was up over 3%, and I figured that was probably a raise for Chelsea once she's certified.
She already got a raise.
Oh,
So I did talk to Shane about that, because his was up over
Bunch.
10%, and he said he was surprised when I kind of brought it up to him, and so he said he was going to relook at his figures and make sure that it was right. I mean, he did have those increases in wages, and then also, I mean, we are going from going to have full-time deputies to this past year. We didn't. I mean, we had an open position for quite some time there.
I think it's always, and that makes a difference in that one. Because if they keep them or not, you know, he's got a plan on having them, and then if he doesn't, he ends up in the salary and he ends up with more money in there than.
And like, that's, he put 50,000 in there for a vehicle.
And then he did put 50 in for a vehicle, and that's just. Everybody's gotta ask for what they want, I
And
guess.
that's something I thought we had handled, when he bought that last new vehicle, that we were gonna start setting money aside. But now when I talked to Shane, and Shane said, he talked to Doug, and he says, well, I thought I was putting money aside in my budget, but Doug said we can't carry that without some other
A
arrangement.
resolution has to be made.
A resolution that we're setting up a fund like that. So,
He may have been putting $5,000 in there with the thought that it was gonna end up in there, but without that resolution, it goes nowhere.
yeah, so.
It just goes back to the general fund.
It
And
never
at the end,
leaves. Never leaves.
Which I think it's something we need to look at, cause he's looking at wanting to do something like that. Arlen mentioned something about doing that.
Arlen's is in a separate fund, so that's not even a problem with him. It's really easy for him.
But
But I have it on the agenda for the 6th.
for the sheriff's department,
Well, for general fund in general, so it would cover weed and pest, it would cover sheriff, it would cover the custodian. I don't know who else needs to cover it. Jamie's.
Well, I'm not necessarily, I mean, I would think like any capital expenditures, not just vehicles, that you can plan for. And
Well, if you don't specifically name it,
You gotta.
I'm not saying just capital expenditures, I'm just saying a specific item, but
Yeah.
there's not just
To get it
vehicles.
to state, audit,
it has
state
to,
audit, it has to have
that's to be named.
a name.
Yeah, I mean, just any,
And
I don't, like
You
this.
can't name it and put.
I'm fine with that, so say the sheriff's department says every 3 years, I'm gonna replace one of the vehicles, and we put $15,000 a year in for 3 years, he's got 45,000 there, so we stop coming up with these $50,000 to $100,000 surprises that we're, you know, jockeying money for. I mean, I don't see any reason why if that's laying in a designated fund by resolution, that we shouldn't
Do it.
Just like we did the elevator.
yeah, continue to put that money aside and I don't know, if things got, you know.
well, first you need to have a plan from the departments. So for example, Jamie drives the old cop car, she probably doesn't put enough miles on to justify like a 3-year rotation. So you need to accommodate those specific things. There is a time limit on the resolution, but that doesn't mean you can't renew it or create a second one later on.
Like I said, if we've got known replacements that we're gonna try to, we discussed this, trying to get this stuff on a schedule so we don't wait till it's completely dead. We can maybe sell it with a little value left and keep this stuff rotated. If we're gonna make a plan like that, then let's create a fund for these
Would
purchases.
it be a county fund, a capital fund that has all these line items under it? Sheriff's vehicles, whatever Jeff needs.
You can designate it that way, but I would not blend funds. I would not blend road and bridge with general fund. I would not blend emergency management with those others. Because the capital improvement resolution only needs to be in the general fund so that you can say those funds are assigned and then they're not subject to the 40% limitation.
They're not,
Correct.
okay.
Whereas
That's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
those two guys' budgets do not have that rule.
I think that would help us a lot.
Yeah, that's,
Well, it would help us in tracking, I mean, rather than, I mean, we all probably know that eventually we have to replace a sheriff's vehicle, but it's hard to keep all that stuff in your mind.
Yeah, we
Right, and that's where the
Yourself.
schedule comes in, because you
Yeah.
can look at that schedule at any
And you
time
can
and say,
pick a number and just plug that number and not saying that there'll be enough money there to purchase the vehicle, but it'll take a bite out of it.
it's gonna cushion the blow.
Yeah.
because Jeff and I even had that conversation about his major equipment, you know, that would probably go through debt service and work out what you think the lifespan is gonna be.
Right.
So you're not trying to.
Everything, to me, everything should have a year side there, like,
Okay, how about the
You know-
roof? How about our elevator? How about the roof? Maybe have all those line items?
They actually should be in some sort of schedule, but the resolution only can be for a limited number of years. I would say 5.
that's what I was thinking.
Well, everything has a depreciation schedule, but, which I've seen, which would tend to match up with its replacement, but.
But the key to it, like you said, is like right now, if you approve the project for the library, you're gonna be done with the library unless there's a disaster. Because everybody from the library's pretty much said that this would be the last major renovation that they would need to do.
What are they doing down there right now?
Just landscaping.
Their landscape.
Is that?
Can I put that into the resolution?
Well, no, they did.
That's what all the fundraising that she talked about.
That's why they do a lot of stuff in the library to,
They're bored.
from donations and that. And then
Elements.
endowments or what, however you wanna say it. But, you know, like the major things, like the roof and this, the carpet and that, they can't come up with that kind of money.
Well, then what do you think we should do then?
I think that you should create the capital accumulation for vehicles in the general fund.
Okay, and then line out each department's.
Have each department head submit what their schedule for replacement is on those big tickets, because, you know, I think about the weed and pest department, was it purchasing two? And then a third one because one got wrecked, or was it purchasing? Either way, you ended up buying two, you know, and that was done in 1 year. So,
Will you ask those departments to submit?
well, I can ask, but it needs more if you guys direct it, because I have no authority over those departments to enforce.
Well, I think they should. We know, weed and pest, we know they're gonna, at some point in time, have to replace one or both of them. And,
And their pickups are,
This seems like a lot.
and what, so,
You can like.
and they'll have to come up in the budget somewhere, what they think. But we would have to, if it's for a pickup, it would have to be specified for a pickup. You can't just go in there and then they can pull out for a,
forward.
for a four-wheeler or for a pickup. Each one of them have to be
About
separate.
that you can.
Okay. Just so you kind of know that.
If it's the consensus of the board, we are telling Doug to get that information from each of the departments so that we can compile a.
Yes.
Okay, then you have the authority from us to
Yes.
demand that.
It means more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so it is consensus, right?
Yes, he needs to get it. If we're going to do it, we need to know what numbers they're looking at.
Okay.
And like you said, it can only go on for 5 years, right?
Yeah, but
But we
I'm
could
gonna find out if
if
you
we
can have
got-
multiple ones for different purposes.
Or can we have it all under?
Just theoretically, you could have one like we had for elevator, and right alongside of it, have one for vehicles. So my question is, can we have one for vehicles and one for off-road vehicles?
How about office equipment?
You
Okay,
could,
got it.
honestly, our most expensive office equipment is probably a copier, $3,000. And you can
The
cover that. through
paperwork on it,
budget.
maybe harder to keep track of where you're at.
I think I saw it in here maybe, but there was some stuff in there for server, I think, and maintenance is that.
That's normal. I didn't add anything for this last request because honestly, I want to see what happens with the school and I want to see what happens with this new software platform.
How about items like fuel tanks that Jeff has?
That's
They
what
have
Bridge,
a life.
if he doesn't spend it, it stays in the fund.
Okay.
That's why general fund is so much different. There's more rules on general fund than there is on his. Reporting rules, reporting requirements.
Well, I think you have our consensus that that's. what-
Everybody agrees?
I think we should have, I think we should start doing these longer term plans and trying to figure stuff out, trying to figure everything out every year. Some of these stuff that we know we're gonna replace is start putting money in the fund so we
Okay, so if I draw your attention to this, I can simplify a lot of your discussion with this worksheet.
This is the final number. You see it there. So see what it might be?
So each of these in the left-hand column is a fund. And so the two primary ones that we're gonna look at are the general fund and the road and bridge fund.
Yeah.
So I'll just cover 911, EM, modernization and preservation, tax incremental, all of those others in one paragraph. Each of those are primarily self-funded. And just because they show a negative number, so for example, the modernization and preservation just simply means that what her revenue is compared to her expenditures is $1,950 off. But the cash fund balance has enough money in it to cover that difference. So there is a mechanism to fund that overage. In the tax incremental district, that simply is because that's a very structured contractual thing. And when this was written, it just happened to have a negative number in it. It will balance. If it doesn't, then we'd have to supplement in the general fund, but the chance of that happening is very slim. The hospital debt service is very similar. It's a contract, it's on an amortization schedule. It finds its own balance, it zeroes out. Just as of
right now,
Yep.
it's a negative number.
So if you concentrate, and even like with 911, 911 is not self-funding anymore. So he estimates revenues at 37.5, expenditures at 46, but there's a cash fund balance of 43,000. So that deficit of $8,900 has a mechanism to cover it. The emergency management deficit is covered by the fact that you're now contracting with Buffalo, or will be contracting with Buffalo County. So the expenses increased, but revenues also increased. And so once we know better what that's gonna look like, you'll see them come closer together.
So like the 911 fund and the modernization fund, those, where they have to dip into the, their cash balance. I mean, are those typical numbers year over year
Yeah.
about being under?
That's why when the registered deed comes over and talks about buying a piece of equipment to scan documents, it's like, yeah, you have money for that, but that's what it's intended for. And then when the radio upgrade happened in 911, there was money for it. It actually was cheaper than expected, right? So that's why there's still a balance there. But unfortunately, in 911, people have their eyes on that, hoping to cash in on it. But we got to preserve that because we have infrastructure that needs to be covered.
But it depletes.
But I mean, if you said running that deficit, obviously in 5 years, the cash will be.
It could be, yes.
What about road and bridge? Is they 158?
Okay, so that literally, if you look at it, what he expected for revenue was 2.6 million, and what he's looking at for expenditures was 3.8 million. So that produces a difference of 1.15 million. How does that deficit get made up? Well, it can't be made up with the cash fund balance because there's almost nothing in the cash fund balance. The road and bridge fund is growing broke. So the only way to make it up is to pull it out of the general fund. Well, the general fund right now, snapshot again, that's 2.9, but a little over $1 million of that is money that's reserved for your elevator and road graders. So 400,000 in road graders and 600,000 on an elevator. So really your cash balance there that's unallocated is 1.9. But if you have overages within the general fund budget itself of 400, you're gonna be cutting pretty thin.
Yeah, like to the.
Thinner than you want. So really, what it comes down to is Jeff telling you why that number looks the way it does.
Why does it?
I guess I just take a 5-year plan and that's what the numbers in with inflation what it was. That's what comes out, is we got 2 options, we cut back on what we do, we raise the mill levy. We're gonna have the same problem as the township got into if we keep pushing things backwards, in my opinion.
Right, so if you go to page 33, at least if you're on the little ones, I'm not sure if your numbers match ours.
Oh, yeah, there you go. I printed one here.
I'm not being critical.
No, I'm flexible.
Let's see you say that in a couple of years.
33.
Highway, roads and bridges.
So if you look at the difference between what's budgeted for 23 and 24, you'll see that that's a lot narrower number. It's in the hundreds of thousands instead of the millions of dollars. The biggest difference there is that if you go back to the amount expended for 22, you'll see that 2.8 was spent instead of the 3.3. So there is a pattern, and correct me if I'm wrong, where they make a budget hoping to get these projects done, and some of them don't get done. But then you also have interruptions like the bridge south of Rockland that come in, and you gotta take care of it because it has to be taken care of. So there is gonna be a certain amount of that unexpected expense just based on events like that. But my suggestion for you is that we don't necessarily, and Jeff and I haven't had time to talk about this, but if you take his budget and you approve it as is, you can do that. You just have to keep in mind if our revenues start to decline, then you have to decline spending. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So for the purposes of a provisional budget, yes, you can approve the provisional budget as it's written, even if you decide to include the library. And we can work with that. We just need to keep in mind that if we don't get the revenues we expect, we'll have to control spending.
Okay, and that makes perfect sense, even in my pea-sized brain. But what I don't understand is why there should be any expectation that revenues would differ substantially this year from last year. Unless we have vast swaths of landowners who decide not to pay their taxes.
That would be the biggest one in the general fund. On his side of it, would be like if there's a government shutdown and they stop sending us the money for DOT.
Oh, something crazy.
Yep, and they just stop. Or we end up in a war and they divert those funds to the war machine. So
Only in the event of a disaster.
it would be a national changing event.
And then they just start printing money, so then it's fine.
Right. Dan's got one in the basement.
If we approve this just like it's submitted, we still have plenty of time.
Oh,
to decide
absolutely.
Anything that needs.
Absolutely, because the insurance right now, if you stay with Dice Financial, they're looking at a 10% increase,
Yep.
which puts us back where we were 3 years ago. We had 2 years of discounts, now we'd be back to where we started.
Is that number in here, the 10%
No,
increase? As all?
I have it though. It came after the thing was produced.
Okay,
But we haven't heard from the other vendor.
right.
If we're thinking, just get stuff closer to right, shouldn't we get that improvement at the library in there for if something we're planning to do? Because it's left out. I mean-
Right, all you need to do is
Yeah.
tell me to
We
include
said
it.
it, we already said that, yeah.
Okay,
We talked about it.
How much was it?
40, wasn't it?
Oh, that was
400. 41 or 2, I was thinking.
40 and
It's in.
it's
Figure 45 and vote for 42.
46.
Is that what it was?
Yes.
we're not as we speak.
Yeah, it just shot past what I said.
So yeah, so if you include that request of the library, it's still a doable budget as long as you watch revenues. That's how simple it is. And so like we started, at Dan's request, started putting it into the agenda where you can see the revenue as it comes in. Now, the worst part about that is that when I run that report, there's some stuff that hasn't transacted yet. So again, it's just a snapshot in time of when that report is run.
I move we approve the provisional budget as submitted with the one exception, we add that library budget.
What about
Do
insurance?
you want to call it an exception or with an inclusion?
With that inclusion.
Yeah, from the library,
Don't want it to sound like a double negative.
then, are they planning to do the floor and the insulation?
I think the carpet insulation.
Carpet and
The
insulation?
wall, the insulation was 20,500. The carpeting is 22.5.
And they wanna do that all same, cause they're gonna move the.
Then
that
just
road.
do-
I knew there was a reason why,
Yeah.
cause I was like,
$3,000 to rent.
$3,000 to rent the stack.
Yeah. Bush mover or whatever.
Call it a stack mover.
No,
We got a
okay,
stack
that's,
mover, but
cause
I
I
don't
was
think it'll
thinking,
fit
well,
in.
maybe we could bust it up, but now I know why, the reason why they want to do both of
Yeah,
them.
and the reason I can tell you that is because like the janitor's budget, we had inflated that so that those projects could occur. And next year, it's deflated. And so there's some absorption that can take place there.
Well, we won't deflate too far.
Is this windows in there?
Yeah, they're in this year.
Okay.
But are they?
So like the doorway, you know, we got that special little bump of extra leftover COVID money that would cover the door project.
But it won't cover the,
The windows, the windows were budgeted for.
but, putting in the handicap door on the west side of the courthouse, we're gonna have to do something with that entryway.
Right. It would, what I see happening there is like one of those glass enclosures that you see like in a hospital, where you have the door behind it, but it has a windbreak, so if the door fails, it doesn't slap somebody in the head.
Well, I know we're gonna have to do something with it, cause for putting the handicap door in, and the way you come in there, there's no way. you can
Right,
get in.
and part of it too is because the door opens out and it opens to the wrong direction for a prevailing wind.
But couldn't they, when they redo that, that could all be
Yep.
redone?
Taken care of.
Okay.
And
But that's all-
Will's not here to explain, but the original reason I even mentioned that door isn't for ingress, it was for ingress in an emergency,
Right.
so that handicapped people could still exit. So depending on how that comes out financially, we could still put an not aftermarket, retrofit it with an opener.
Cause that'll have an open around it.
Yep. So that is what I would consider a priority.
But that's all in this year's budget.
So his
The
budget
doors
for,
are,
The doors are.
it could be,
so
because
his
the money's there.
budget for capital improvements was 25,000 this year. And it's 16 for 24. I mean, so are we gonna expend the 25 this year?
I hope so.
That's on that window, or it's sealing windows.
Yep.
And then the 60 for next year would include, or what is he asking?
Next year?
Yeah.
I'm not really sure what that is.
Don't worry. It's an old building.
Oh, I'm sure that there's plenty of things to spend money
I
on.
think he's figuring, I think he's figuring on,
No, 'cause
on,
more of it is like, you
Entry
know, the breakaway
on the
door
west
thing,
side.
just having somebody
Changing
open the door so that they
Yeah.
can
changing that
escape. if
to
there's
something. I don't know what it would be. But all that stuff, when you start changing the outside of the building, has to go through historical. Because it's a historic building.
$4,000 to drill a hole.
I'll second his motion.
That's even.
All those in
But I do have a question, in just a second, okay? So like the insurance, we obviously don't know who we're settling on, I guess, for sure,
No. But everybody budgeted for 10%, and the ones that didn't.
but that's not in here?
It is.
Oh,
I went
okay,
back and asked them.
okay, so they did put the 10% in there, that's, okay. I thought you said it wasn't, sorry, before.
Yeah, there was just a couple that didn't put it in, and then I contacted them and they let me fix it.
Gotcha, okay.
Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none? The provisional budget is.
Okay, so the next part of it is that I have a spreadsheet that I complete, and then I'll have Luke sign it, and then we publish it, and we'll schedule a public hearing. So I envision that on the 6th of July is when we will set the date for that budget hearing. Any questions for me?
You did a lot of work.
It is a lot of work. It's getting better.
Is it harder? Easier, I mean, every year?
It's easier for me to remember it
That's what I mean.
than it had been in the past, but having good department heads that turn in their stuff makes it easier on me. It's the ones that don't turn it in that give me heartburn. I have to track them down like dogs they are.
We'll approve a zero budget for him and maybe.
Well, one of them, that's what I told him, and then he complied.
He produced something really fast,
He
didn't
did. He did.
Anybody have any executive or anything?
I say no.
Wanna go home? Motion to adjourn.
So,
I heard Dan first.
he? All those in favor?
Thank you guys for all the township work you did. I honestly haven't been involved in much,
Dude,
but
I'm telling you,
I appreciate you.
I-
It sounds like you did a lot of work with all you guys, so. I
I'm
appreciate
learning
it.
so much about townships.
And we might learn another more before we're done.
Probably not all bad as you sometimes.
Well, today was, they don't have IRS employer identification numbers. So they went to set up bank accounts, but they don't have,
Apply for one.
they gotta apply for one.
You need this, right? Do I sign this? I didn't think so.
No, I filed
We had a funds number before we had the number we're supposed to have.
Sign. Is it?
They didn't have a coffee cup.
Yeah,
I don't know, I can't forget it.
the DUNS number is something of the past. You're supposed to get a new number, but everything. Yeah, same number. So anyway, it sounds like every township that's been trying to do it's just having a headache. And I'm like, I ain't messing with that till they get it figured out. It's like, you know, it's another FEMA thing, you know.
Yeah, that's all it is for fees.
Yeah, we're just hoping we don't have a disaster before we got the numbers. We're scrambling to try to. Thank you. Thank you, Jamie.
Well, thank you guys.
Thanks.
No, thank you.
Ain't done nothing yet. It's hot in here.
It's warm in here.
We're a little air conditioner just.
I think it's kind of cool outside.
You?
Should move
Yeah,
over
it was
the
down
door.
to like 69 when I came in.
Really?
I did that last year, we had the door.
Did we?
Trying to boost to it.
Oh, man. On the commissioner smoking in
Platform.
commissioner smoking room.
There's days I wish I smoked just so I could say.
Can't you get one of those electronic things or something?
I don't want to start that again.
Again?
Yeah, I smoked until I was 40, just under 41.
Really?
He can't be much over 39.
You're right. It's a broad definition of much.
Really, Rod?
On that note, huh, Jim?
Huh?
On that note, huh?
Yeah.
Better get outside. Better get outside.
Who's the?
Who's talking?
Jim.
Almost. Gotta find my pointer, Matt.
I have that. Thanks for reminding me. Thank you.